Sweet.
All right. Hi, my name is Smith. I'm a retired Muay Thai champion. It's been a while since I fought. I used to fight out of Muay Thai boxing, still very much an active gym. My record is 35 fights. Pretty sure 32 of them were Muay Thai fights. The actual record, I cannot remember. It's been that long ago, and I've probably been hit in the head way too many times since then. Uh, and this is the Fighting Talk New Zealand.
Yeah, thank you very much, Daria. It's always hard case getting people to introduce themselves for a start because no one likes to talk about themselves. You know what I mean? So to come up and be like, "Oh, I've done this," and done that, it's pretty cool. So how are you? You're good.
I am very good. It's been a very long time since I've been involved in anything fighting related. So I'm actually really excited about this. I haven't been following the industry as closely as I think I should have or could have. So I'm actually keen to have this chat and see what's new.
Yeah, yeah. I saw it like I was saying before. I saw some stuff come off of you doing CrossFit and stuff like that, and it really reminded me of like when you were fighting and stuff like that, and when you came down and I was like, man, I hadn't spoken to you in ages. It's like, oh, I'll reach out and send you a text message and just see how you are, and then see if you get to sort of come on the podcast. And you're like, all for it, and I was like, this is choice, and like your self promotion is just amazing. I haven't had anybody do that straight off the bat. Like even before I told anybody you're into just good, and I know that we've discussed it about self promotion and stuff for fighters and things like that. It's a bit of a, I guess, a bit of a thought pattern that fighters that want to get paid should be able to sell tickets and be able to promote themselves and stuff like that. And then on the other hand, it's like, well, the promoters also have to have really good shows and good lighting and good stuff like that. And it sort of all goes around in a little bit of a circle. What's your thoughts on that kind of thing with as far as fighters promoting themselves?
Well, 100% you have to do it. And I think that what most fighters need to realize is that what being a fighter is only part of it. If you want to have amazing opportunities, if you want to be going overseas, if you want to get invited and be main event, you actually have to sell the tickets. Whether you want it or not, that's the reality of it. The self-marketing, the self-promotion, you cannot go without it. There's a reason why certain people make it to say UFC and certain people don't. It really is not about the skill. It's about how well you're recognized and how well you're liked and how many tickets you can sell. New Zealand is quite a small market, so I think you can still kind of get away with doing the bare minimum and still get invited, and the skill will get you quite far because there's not that many people. If you want to be going to Australia and if you want to be getting paid to fight, you have to be a face that they recognize because nobody's going to go to an Australian, say, fight show and watch a New Zealand fighter they've never heard of. Um, and for females, especially, that is a really hard kind of thing to do. Male fighters, like naturally, it's a male industry, doesn't really look at it. And that's also the kind of the reality of things as well, is that for females, they have to promote a lot harder. Whether you want to believe it or not, the guys don't like watching girls fight.
Mm.
And and I think that's also important for us as females in any really sport is to take any opportunity that we can to show off our skills, whether we're doing it for ourselves or for other females. And this is where all of that self promotion comes in. You might not get invited to a bunch of shows to start with. Social media is like an amazing tool that we have at our disposal right now. And it's so easy to do as well. It's a shame that a lot of people aren't doing it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it is. I think it sort of helps. Like if I run a Muay Thai show down here, we don't have a big selection of Muay Thai or fighters willing to fight Muay Thai in the South Island. So you need to bring them from the North Island. And that's really, really hard for them to be able to sell tickets. And because they're not going to, their friends and family aren't going to be able to afford to come down here, which is fine. But they are marketable enough and they're on social media enough, and my gym's, like promoting what they're doing as well. Then all of a sudden, people do want to see them fight down here, and so people down here do start buying tickets to come and watch those guys. So I've found that by using the same fighters on my shows from the North Island, all of a sudden the crowds get bigger and they sell easier because people actually recognise who I'm bringing down from the last show. So, um, and I think if if you're getting that, and then you start getting pay-per-view, and you start getting big crowds, then advertising and sponsorship gets easier for the shows, and fighters that stand out are the same. Like you just have to work inside and outside of the ring a wee bit. Yeah,
Yeah, and also that's actually a really great point about the sponsorship and promotions and everything else. You can't really like earn money being a fighter. Doesn't really matter where you're doing it because you don't fight often enough or you're not physically able to fight often enough to make a living. And a lot of that money comes from sponsorships, and they're not coming from New Zealand sponsorships. New Zealand sponsorships are so small, it's not going to be worth it. So if you actually want to make a career out of it, if you're young enough, if you have enough kind of drive to do that, getting sponsorship is all about recognition. It's actually about social media and digital engagement, all of that stuff. You might be the
mm,
crappiest fighter in the world, but if you have, I don't know, 10,000 or above IG followers, you're
yeah,
done. That's amazing.
yeah. Because with that you can start getting some advertising, getting people following you, sponsorship, selling product for people, influencing people, really, isn't it?
Yeah, as shitty as it sounds, that's the reality of it. In modern day and age, you have to have that like crowd online first as
Yeah,
well. Um, yeah, I mean, sport and being paid for it are two different things. You
yeah,
could be an amazing and be doing really well
yeah,
in the sport. You're not going to get paid for it. You're not going to get enough money from it. Most athletes get sponsorships.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's true, isn't it? Um, there's not a lot of opportunity to fight full time and be pro. Like you see it now in Thailand a little bit, where they're getting these big bonuses and that, like one championship, like Friday night fights and stuff. They're getting bonuses, which is great, but hard to do in New Zealand. And I think it's also up to the promoters a wee bit. Well, like the promoters, you can have the best fighters, but if you just put them in a room with 100 people sitting around with no lighting and no decent sound and nothing decent to eat, stuff like that, then no one's going to go to it either. So they need to ensure that. Well, I think we need to ensure as promoters that we've got a decent show for people to come and fight on as well, and look after the fighters. I think it's a big thing, eh?
Yeah, and also it's and I don't understand why not more fighters realize that is that the only way the industry will progress and move on if we all help each other, and promotion is a really big part of actually being able to fight and show off your skills. And it's hard work, it costs a lot of money, and you've put in a lot of it without knowing if you're going to get any of it back. So the least we could do is help you guys out by selling tickets, promoting the event, talking about it. Because I've been through quite a few of these where the gyms that I was at were putting on shows, and it was just a ton of hard work. And sometimes you lose a shitload of money at the end of it, and it's
Mm.
just really disappointing.
Yeah, it is. Oh, it's 100% like that. I've found you put on amazing shows and really really good stuff, and you don't really make anything out of it. Well, not enough to support my family. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. And the
uh,
reality of things, and I, people realize that you make majority of your money selling alcohol at those events too.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you need to have lots of buddies and they need to drink and you need to put on like a good show for them to watch as they're doing it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's hard case. So anyway, your fighting career, you started training at Jai. Is that like you were always there?
No, I Jai was like my latest gym. I started training out of a place that is no longer in business. It used to be called Fighting Academy. That was Mark Stewart's gym. It's been around for a little while. So I've had first maybe 10 or so fights, maybe
Yeah,
even more. And this is when Jai moved to Auckland, and I jumped on board straight away because they had an amazing collection of Thai trainers, the guys that
yeah,
kind of stuff,
yeah,
um, and come with all of that like really authentic experience. And it's just changed my fight game so much straight away.
yeah. I suppose because that would have been Wimbledon, was it?
Yep. So Wimbledon was there. There were quite a few of them around. They still actually operate under the same concept. So the owner brings in the trainers from Thailand. So she goes over there. She kind of goes around the gyms, figures out who the good ones are, and then she brings them over into New Zealand. And I think that's the only gym in New Zealand that does that.
Yeah.
So I grew,
That's Sue Lin, is it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. She does cool things. It's cool.
yeah. She has this amazing concept. We're friends to this day. We actually hung out yesterday,
Oh,
funnily
really?
enough.
Oh,
So she still does the same thing. I'm still very much part of Jai. I just don't train as much anymore.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I saw something because I saw your Instagram thing the other day.
Oh
And
no,
I
I've
thought,
lost for a minute.
oh, oh, you're
Oh, you,
right. So, oh yeah, so you and Sue Lin catch up pretty regularly then.
yeah. We just don't train anymore. We just mostly do the drinks now.
Yeah, that's all good. So was Selena Small training there when you were there? Was pretty sure she
Yeah.
was at Joy, but she might have been in Wellington.
She was in Wellington and then she moved up to Auckland. So we actually trained together for a bit and then she moved to Australia. She's kind of been in and out, but yeah, we trained together for a little while.
Yeah.
And when we trained, we had like can we swear on the podcast, by the
Yeah,
way?
yeah, 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 of course.
Because we had a team name. They used to call us Team Crazy Bitch.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome because you two both would have been. She usually fought a wee bit lighter than you did. I suppose you're both a similar sort of range. Really, you sort of went from like 53 to 58, and she was sort of like that 52 to 56, wasn't she?
Yeah, it was kind of similar. Literally, when I was fighting, and I don't know if that's the case right now, there were not enough girls, and I was desperate. I would like cut a bunch of weight, or I'll gain weight, or I will take fights heavy, anything that I could get. So my fight range was like insane in weight wise, just because I
Yeah,
wanted to get. And
yeah,
so Selena was there in between somewhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it would have been pretty handy for you two, or would have been handy for her. She would have only just been getting into it when you were sort of right in the full swing of things, eh? So it would have been really awesome experience for her to be able to train with you like that.
Yeah, it was really great to have a female partner to train because that's something that you generally don't get a lot of, or
Yeah,
I didn't get a lot trained with guys all the time. And there's a really big difference in how you would say spar with a guy versus a girl. It's size difference, it's a weight difference, and it's never the same. It was actually quite nice to have like somebody that is more or less my size to be able to like bounce a few things off of.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome because I'm not. I haven't seen if she's fought recently, but I know she moved to Australia a few years ago. I caught up with her over there. I know Caitlin's gone over there and trained with her. Um, she is she still like fighting over there, or what's she up to?
I actually have no idea.
No, no, neither do I. I'll have to send her a message and find out what she's up to. But,
Yeah, this is
so
no, sorry, you go.
no, you go. I'm all good.
No, I was just gonna say that that's one of the actual cool things about the fighting is like the amount of people that I met and the amount of friends that I've made is quite a lot of them. But I haven't. I think like if we chat, will probably be like nothing's ever happened and hasn't been years. But I have no idea what any of these people are up to these days. I just kind of like dropped out of the scene and I was like, no, this is it. The whole fighting thing is dead to me now. I'm just gonna move on with my life. That was literally the only way I could do it because I loved it so much. I couldn't
Mm.
just kind of move away a little bit. It had to be like a clean break.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we you mentioned that before that you had a question that came through and and somebody else that I'd like to probably talk to about it at some stage who's gone in a similar path is Kaylee Reese. Obviously, with being champion fighters and then leaving the sport, having children, leaving the sport, getting into like especially CrossFit, which is something else that you're right into now. And I've seen, geez, you've grown too. Like you've gotten strong since when you started, man. Really,
I'm
geez, you look strong.
more of
Yeah.
me now.
All right, yeah, man, you look it's hectic. Hey, it's like, whoa. How did you find that? How did you? What was the thing that clicked in your head and said, right, it's time to stop, time to move on, and how did you sort of deal with the aftermath of that?
Yeah, to me, the biggest reason why I retired was the politics. It got to the point where I was no longer enjoying what I was doing, and that there was like too many opinions about what I was doing, what I wasn't doing. And I just remember after every single fight, somebody would always complain about, I shouldn't have gone this way or shouldn't have gone that way. You don't know what you're doing. And I was like, this is not fun anymore. I love fighting and I love sport, and I kind of love the chase.
Mm.
But it became like such a drag, always having to explain to everybody like why the decision went that way, why it didn't go that way. It just became like too public at the end,
Mm.
and just lost and it just lost any enjoyment. I remember right before my last fight, and I didn't even know it was going to be my last fight. I was talking to Miriam Tio. I don't know if you remember her. She was one of the
Yeah,
fighters
I
during
love
my
Miriam. She's yeah, a lot of time for Miriam. Eh? She's an amazing chick. Yeah,
yeah, and she's retired like pretty much right before me. And I was talking to her before my last fight, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
yeah,
I was not fun. She's like, why are you doing this? And it just clicked. I was like, yeah, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this anymore. And that was it. And like after that fight, I made a decision. I was like, that's not fun. I'm not enjoying it. Like it's too stressful. And I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. But also I was getting older. And I think it got to the point where I would have needed to put in a lot more effort and a lot more travel time to get anywhere with my fighting
mm,
career because I ran out of opponents in New Zealand like 3 years before that.
yeah,
And that's not where I want to be in my life. I think 32 at the time. I was like, I'm way too old for this shit. And
yeah,
that was it.
yeah. Wow, no, that's pretty awesome. And when you stopped, like you obviously had your fight, you stopped. There would have been a period of time where you would have been like, how the fuck do I like fill in all this time that I've got? You know, I was like, what do I do with myself? Like that's what I found when I stopped training. Anyway, I was like, felt real weird. It's like there's nothing to do.
I
Like,
Yeah, I don't struggle with filling in my time. I have this problem. I'm pretty sure PhD, like I fill my days with stuff all the time.
yeah,
Sports is a really big thing for me, so I would always find something physical to do. And by the time I retired, I was already doing CrossFit. I was
yeah,
like, I'm full time now. That's just I enjoyed it. It was fun. I'll just keep doing that. The biggest thing that I struggled at the time, I struggled with having an identity
oh yeah,
because I was a fighter. I was like a champion fighter for years, and that's who I was. That's what I did. That's literally how I breathed. I trained for 4 hours every single day. I always thought about what's next. Like, when is the next fight? What do I need to do? I didn't have a social life at all because when people would invite me to go place, I'm like, no, sorry, I'm in fight camp. And I was in fight camp all the time because I used to fight once a month for like years.
mm,
And it was like, oh, who am I? And I've
yeah,
really with this, like, who am I? If I'm not a fighter, then I'm like, I don't have a different identity. This
mm,
is it. And
yeah,
that was the hard. And I think I got to a point where I was just really depressed about it. I was like, I don't know who I am. What's the point of me being here?
yeah, yeah.
And,
It's real tough, eh?
and it took the longest time to kind of get to a realization that like what I do or don't do doesn't make me a person. It's it's a trait that I have, but it's not my whole personality. And
Mm,
this is why it was actually really great because it's competitive, like fighting
mm,
is, but it doesn't demand you like give up your whole life for it.
mm,
You could do it as seriously as you want to, or you can compete. You don't have to. You have that choice. And it
mm,
was really nice kind of easing into it, knowing that I can still compete if I want to, or I can just learn new stuff and be happy with it. It's kind of physically hard enough so that I don't feel like I've done nothing with my time.
mm, yeah,
But I also have to train for 4 hours and just like give up my whole life for it.
yeah. And it's also a really cool time for you to be going into because if you're retired, you know, in your early 30s, then you know you're coming into that like real strength phase of your life. You know, like female athletes in their 30s and 40s are usually pretty strong. You know what I mean? So it'd be a good time to be getting into CrossFit.
I don't know. There are girls who are like in their 20s in CrossFit that I build like a brick shit house, and I could never be that.
Is that right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Because I guess they probably are, right? Like it just, I know I see a lot of people that have retired, like male fighters and that have got into lifting and stuff like that, and it just look like beasts when they're in their 30s and 40s. And but then I guess you're right. Actually, there are some girls that I know that are in their 20s that are actually really strong. Yeah,
Because it comes down to mindset. I don't think it's the age thing. It's like if
yeah,
you're that like if you're that driven and that competitive, you whichever sport you pick, you're gonna end up getting stronger or faster or whatever that might
yeah,
be.
yeah. That's true.
And
Yeah,
And I find it like I can relate to, say, female athletes in CrossFit same as I could to the ones in fighting, or like any type of like fighting discipline. Is it's kind of this like alpha female personality where you're a type A personality and just want to grind. You don't give a shit about anybody else. You have your goal and you just want to get there.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's an awesome way of looking at it. Eh? That's cool. That's cool. And so your mindset um, with fighting and with CrossFit very similar.
Oh, 100%. The only thing I had to learn to slow down quite a bit, because you can't just go balls out in CrossFit and still like succeed. You hurt
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's
This
true.
is why I genuinely think that fighting is like the ultimate way of competition. You physically overpower your opponent. And if you run out of skills or like strategy, you still can physically just punch them in the face and it'll be great. Or you can like
Yeah,
or throw them on the ground. You can still win just by really wanting it, if that makes
yeah,
sense. You'd
yeah,
have like enough training and strategy to be able to win a fight if you really want it. And it doesn't work that way. If you don't have the skills, if you can't, I don't know, handstand walk, or if you can't do a muscle up, no amount of wanting it will save you. And it's like
yeah.
a really tough thing for me when I've done my first CrossFit comp. I didn't do well at all. I was right at the bottom, and I was like, shit, but I'm like good at competing at stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And how many times have you competed now?
Quite a few times, but I haven't done a lot of individual comps. I've done a lot of team stuff
Yeah,
because I feel that when I started competing individually in CrossFit, I got into the same mindset that I left with fighting. It just was not a good like mental place for me.
yeah,
It just reminded me much of like how hard it got by the end, and like how much I had to sacrifice to end up with, I don't know, a lot of public opinions about shit that they shouldn't have opinions on. So I've done team stuff, which is just a little bit of fun, but I'm getting back into individual things now. I think I've gone full circle where I'm like, I need to have some individual goals. I can't just kick the can down the road for much longer. I'm getting really old now. I still have some years left in me.
yeah.
I don't want to get kicked in the face because I don't think that's going to go really well. But I could still do individual comps.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. I love your philosophy on things. It's you can really only come up with a philosophy like that through actually experiencing a fight career, I think, and whereas obviously as the competitor that you are, what what it reminds me, I've got some questions that came in from some of the people that sort of tuned in and that. And one of them was um tips and things for like mindset for fighting and achieving your goals and stuff like it was visualization and stuff like that. Was that a sort of a big part of your fighting routine, or you just sort of went in there and just
Yeah, I don't know. I've tried many things. I can't say like I have a winning recipe for like what you need to do to like fight your mind on it. I can
yeah,
tell you that before every single fight, I was shit scared. I think that's natural. You get the nerves, you get the kind of the self-doubt, like, oh shit, what am I doing here? It's gonna hurt like a bitch. I'm gonna lose and everybody's gonna hate me. I think that's only natural. If you're not going through that process, there's something wrong with you in here.
yeah,
Um, and I've tried kind of different methods to like not be nervous or like to visualize my fight to be more self-confident, but I couldn't find anything that was like, no, this is it. The only thing that I knew that I had to do is I had to prepare really, really well. I had to train really, really hard because I always knew that the fight was going to be way easier than all of my training.
yeah,
So, and at least if I've done the hard part, the fight was the easy part. And then it was just up to my training, my kind of muscle memory to remember it all. It doesn't really matter what my mind was doing at the time, as long as my body was ready to just do what it needed to do.
yeah, yeah. That's it. And I think probably just that repetition of technique and you know pad work and sparring and all that kind of stuff. I don't have to
Yeah.
think this that it'll just sort of flows out and goes together. Because I noticed that I've been watching a few of your fights over the last week or so, and just yeah, there's no real like singular thing. Like you adapt to each fight like really carefully. It's quite good, and I think you can only do that through one, experience, and two, just being able to adapt on the go kind of thing, which I think is that muscle memory and stuff that you talk about, eh? Because every opponent's going to be different, and they're going to throw something that you probably aren't expecting, so you have to be able to adapt.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like if you have enough muscle memory to do that, when you don't really need to think very deeply about it. And all of my training has always been about really careful dance of avoiding getting hit and finding opportunities to hit and finding opportunities to break their rhythm. And you
Mm.
learn after you've trained with many people and sparred with many people that everybody has their rhythm. They all have their favorite moves. They all have their kind of favorite thing that they're doing. So you just kind of figure it out really quickly during the fight and you adapt to break it up.
Mm.
So go forward, find what they're doing, avoid being hit, and then hit them straight away. So that throws them off their game.
Yeah.
And that's a mind game as much as it is a muscle memory, but I've trained that to be the muscle memory. In
Mm.
reality of things, once the bell rings, your mind goes blank. You can't think of anything.
Yeah.
Like it just naturally out of you. You're not actually thinking deeply. It's like, oh my God, he's doing this thing, therefore I'll do this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Hey, I've got there was another question. Advice for fighting super aggressive girls.
I would say that girls that are super aggressive um, are firstly, I genuinely think they probably don't have enough fight IQ to do anything else.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're so nervous and so paranoid that it just comes out in this aggression. But and that's what I was saying earlier. You need to find a way to break up their rhythm because if that's the only strategy they have, they're gonna lose as soon as you figure it out.
Yeah.
So you just avoid, move sideways, find a way to hit them straight after they try to hit you, and this will kind of throw it off their game.
Mm.
There is a difference between being aggressive and being forward, because aggression takes a lot of energy and it doesn't take a lot of thinking. So that's why I'm saying I don't think they would have a very high fight IQ
Mm.
if that's what style is.
Yeah. 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 No, that's a good point. And any before you said that your fight day, or you're normally shitting yourself, like, well, I remember when I was fighting, I'd be shitting myself the whole fight camp. I'd be like, right, I thought we sort of got going, I'd be like, oh, holy shit, what am I doing? But do you have any tips for controlling like anxiety and adrenaline and stuff on the day?
On the day, I'm genuinely like quite an intense person. So like, and if I'll focus on something that I know that I'll just drain my battery on it. So what I actually try and do and focus on anything but the fight itself.
Mm.
Whenever like would be in the back wearing a map and warming up in the changing rooms, I'll just chat to people, we'll just laugh, and I pretend that I'm literally somewhere else with my friends and we're just hanging out, having a great time
Yeah.
until like my hands are being wrapped or until the Thai massage and I can smell that tile oil. I literally pretend I'm somewhere else entirely, and I'm just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
because you're right. I mean, you'll be nervous regardless. There's no point trying to lose all of the energy being nervous ahead of time. So I just like live in denial for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. I don't know whether you will have seen too much of what's been going on with the fight scene in New Zealand at the moment. But is there anybody that's sort of sticking out in your eyes as sort of going all right, male or female?
I haven't been following the industry too closely beyond the people that I already knew when I kind of dipped.
Mm.
So it's all the same girls that were around when I was around that are still fighting. So I mean, Caitlin is one of them. Obviously, I see her around quite a bit.
Yeah.
Kelly as well, Kelly, and
I
I do
Kelly
not know.
Boris. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've
Yeah.
seen her around quite. And she's quite aggressive actually, but she's also very for aggression.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, obviously, baby's still around. She's
Yeah. Yeah.
still I don't know how she does it. She still is fighting. Wendy Talbot, all the same girls again. They've been around when I was around.
Yeah.
I try not to get too involved because, like, I have such deep feelings. Like, I love the sport, and I just, for me, the only way to get out of it was to have that clean break. So I try
Cut that straight off.
for a reason. I just want to get those feels like, oh, I should fight again because I really shouldn't.
Yeah. Hey, well, and I had like a million questions on like who was your toughest opponent and who was this and who was that kind of thing. But what I've done is I've written down some names of fighters that you've fought, and some of them have just retired, some of them are still fighting. Um, but what I really enjoy um, about watching your fights on YouTube and that recently is all the people that you've fought. And this is some of them. And so I'm just going to say their names, and I just want you to give me your initial thoughts on them or of whatever pops into your mind first. If it's real bad, I'll edit it out.
Sounds good.
But I'll read them out. No particular order, but Miriam Teo.
She's amazing. We became really great friends. I think we only fought once, but we hung out a lot more than that.
Yeah, yeah. Baby Nansen.
Baby, we fought a billion gazillion times, I think. She is a tough bitch. Like that's the only way to describe her. When you talk to her, she's extremely nice, but in the ring, she's anything but.
Yeah, yeah. Leanne Banham.
She is very experienced. She's been around for a very, very long time. I think she's well respected. I don't think I caught her. I kind of caught her at the end of her career, and I wish I would have been around a lot earlier. So I would have actually seen her in action a lot earlier than that because she's had like 50 or something fights. And I think there's not that many females in New Zealand that have done that.
No, no, she's an amazing fighter. Um, Whitney Tobin.
Oh, we fought a couple of times. It's funny because we fought twice for different titles.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, she is really great as well because I mean I'm like friends with these people in real life as well, so I don't have anything bad to say to them because they're like
yeah,
amazing and we well because we have this like common, I guess,
yeah,
person.
yeah. Yeah, I watched one of your fights with you and Whitney um just before I was talking to you. I can't remember where it was, but it was a really awesome fight because you both have got a very similar style, and it was one of the fights I watched with you because a lot of the Kiwi girls are very forward fighters, and so they're on the front foot a lot. Whereas that fight, you guys are both sort of just taking your time, and it was a very technical fight. It's a really good one to watch, eh?
Yeah, she has a really nice Thai style, and because I've been trained by like Thai people, I think the way that girls fight in New Zealand is a little bit different. It's more kickboxing K1 because
Hmm.
Thai you're relaxed. You do like nothing for the first two rounds, really. So,
Yeah,
and because she's kind of in that, it's such a beautiful dance. I enjoy those fights so much more because we both knew what we were doing and we just took our time and we enjoyed the time that we had together, as silly
yeah,
as it sounds.
yeah. It was an awesome fight. Ash Ahapeni.
That was a short fight. That was a TKO, I think, in the second round or so. She's amazing. I honestly think that we should have never been paired up because she's so much smaller than me.
Yeah,
We ended well, I ended up making the weight, but it's also kind of, I guess, part of it. I think I'm like physically quite a bit bigger than her. It wasn't
yeah,
a good experience in that sense where I just didn't feel like I should have been there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Um, I don't know if you ever fought her, but I'm interested to get your thoughts on her. Melody Downs.
No, I've never thought we were in very different weight classes. So she was fighting like 60 something to 70, and I was like 50.
Yeah,
So there was good between us. We sparred a couple of times, and I've seen her fight. I think she's actually one of the most amazing fighters in New Zealand at her time. I mean, I'm not follow the industry anymore. She's very technical,
yeah,
and she is. And I think because of kind of the weight that she was at, she would struggle to find opponents in New Zealand that would have been as technical as her because she's actually quite lean and tall, and
yeah,
that she has this really amazing style.
mm,
Um, she she's also at a weight class in New Zealand where there's just not that many girls, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. That's true. True. Mel Mackey.
We've never
Never quite.
fought.
Oh, she would have been a bit heavier than you, probably too, wouldn't she?
Yeah,
61.25.
yeah.
Yeah,
She would have been a bit. Well, yeah.
yeah. Wendy Talbot.
We fought twice. She's awesome. Like I just really love her. She's such a like honest personality. Because when we fought the first time, I thought I won. And they gave her the decision, and she was like, "No, this is bullshit. I didn't win." And I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing."
Yeah, yeah, and she's putting on some really, really good performances at the moment. Like she's dynamite. I think she's only just turned 30. Like she seems to have been around for a long, long time, but she's putting in amazing performances.
Yeah, she's been around for a little while, and she went to Thailand as well for like the Muay Thai Angels, which was a while ago. So she's actually been fighting at like quite a high level for a little while as well.
Mm,
And she's still doing it, which is phenomenal.
yeah, yeah. Did you ever fight Jintian Lupi?
Yep, we fought twice.
Yeah.
Uh, First time I fought her, it was like one of my first amateur fights. She just destroyed me. I got a beating of my life on. I still don't
Really?
know how I ended up fighting her in the first place. I had to.
Yeah.
I mean, I lasted all 3 rounds, but I had to be carried out of the ring.
Oh,
And
wow.
they took me to the back, and they put kind of chair next to me so I would sit down, and I just fell on the floor. I was like, I'm done.
Oh, really?
That was
Wow.
I've never had a fight where I was just like getting beaten up because she was just kneeing me in the face for 3 rounds straight.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but we had a rematch, and that was like by far my most favorite fight because I was shitting myself. I was like, oh my god, this girl gave me the beating of my life, but I have to go back. I can't
Yeah,
just
yeah,
I can just leave it. And I won unanimously the second time because we drilled and drilled and drilled. And like in my head, I was just shit scared. But I was like, no, I know what I need to do. And I did that. And I did exactly what we planned. And I won the fight. And I was like, this is amazing.
yeah,
And this like the first fight where I've had where I just used my skill. I didn't use my power. I didn't use my strength. We had a strategy. We had like a game plan. I've executed it and it worked. It was amazing.
yeah, yeah. It's so cool to see those comebacks. Hey, like Caitlin had one of those. She fought Fee Sim, and like in the third round, couldn't fight anymore. She's just like, I just can't do it. Like, just done. We pulled her out, and then she rematched with Fee like a year later or something like that, and came back and beat her. So there's got to be something to be said for that champion mindset, to be just like, oh, hang on. And there's got to be something wrong with you to be like, so the girl that beat the snot out of me, I'm going to fight her again. Yeah,
And
yeah,
and because when in those fights, you're starting on the back foot already because mentally you know what it feels like to like not be able to win that fight, but also like lose it in such a terrible way. And
yeah,
these are the strongest fighters out there that are taking those fights
mm,
and with like everything against them, and they're still like in it, and they're actually might not necessarily be winning, but they're trying, and then they have this, like you said, champion mindset. There's too many fighters out there that would take easy fights and would stick to the easy route the whole way through.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, if you haven't, like, if you're a guy and you haven't do that, you can. But if you're a girl, you don't really have that choice because there's all the five opponents out there for you in the first place.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's and you got to take what you can get. And I think you did right though. Like if you take fights that are sort of above your level kind of thing, like you might have had 5 or 6 fights, 10 fights to step up and fight someone with like 30 or 70 fights. Chances are it might not go that well, but you could also go, someone's got to beat these people at some stage as well, and future champions come through at that level, so gotta have a go, eh?
Yeah, I'm in two opinions of that. You definitely have to challenge yourself. You definitely have to be uncomfortable. It's the only way to progress. And you also have to believe that you could do certain things. But also, there are some matches that happen that shouldn't.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a difference between I'm taking on a challenge or I'm going to get a beating of my life. And I think when that happens, that wasn't a good match.
Hmm.
And it comes down a lot, I guess, to the promotions and the trainers themselves and how they let you take certain things or how they would advise you what you do, because it's not like it's physically not safe to be
Yeah.
beaten at level.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And I think promoters, I, I, th- I don't think people actually want come and see someone get the absolute kicked out of them. Like the to the extent where they, like you say, getting carried out of the ring or just completely broken. Like if you get two fighters that are at the same level that do that to each other, that's awesome. But no one wants to see a mismatch. I don't think that's healthy for the promoters to be doing that either. Eh?
Yeah, I mean that happens quite a bit when I guess people are starting out because you haven't had enough experience and you don't really know what the other person is capable of, whether it's a mismatch or not. But also the reality of like once you get to a high level, everybody's fairly level. There's not that
Mm,
many fights where there's like knockouts, or especially the lighter weight, there's not that many knockouts or like one person beating up the other. It's just not a good match.
mm,
But it's also a careful balance, right? Because the people paying money, they want to see that. They want to see the knockouts. They yell for
mm.
them all the time, often
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, they do. It's surprising what you hear about yourself when you're fighting somebody that has got a bigger crowd than you do. Eh?
When you're like main event, and by the time they get to your fight, they've had quite a few drinks.
Yeah. So how did you find it fighting in Aussie? Like I know you fought in Rebellion and a few pretty big shows over there compared to like fighting on the New Zealand shows.
I'd say that, and I've been told this before going to Australia, but it's not always true, is that you have to win convincingly to win in the country that isn't your own. So like you have to be hands down the winner.
Mm,
I think it was always my experience. There were fights where I've had in Australia where I was like, that was like really fair judging. I would have done the same thing. But there were fights where I was like, I won that and the other person got the decision. And I was like, I don't see it that way. You'd never know which one you're gonna get,
mm,
unfortunately. There are promotions like Rebellion that are absolutely amazing. And you're going to get their judging there. And they're a lot more traditional in their judging as well. It's more Muay Thai than anything else. But then there are others out there that are not as, I guess, favorable towards Kiwis. I just say that you
mm,
need to be really aware of which promotion you go into and what you need to do to win. Because sometimes just being good enough the way that you are in New Zealand is not enough, but also the quality of Australian fighters is like 10 times the level of New Zealand simply because they have more opportunities. There's way more money, there's way more people,
mm.
and they just get a lot more training and they're able to focus a lot more on that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it is
definitely.
money to fight in Australia too.
Yeah, yeah. It's really good. We've noticed that as well. Going over to Aussie, it's just been just a whole other sort of next level, like the show quality and you know, go to a show there's like 20 tables or something in New Zealand, you go over there, there's 100 tables at a show. You're like,
Yeah.
oh,
It just quality of the venue, like the actual catering, the dress code, like all of these things that just don't happen in New Zealand because they have the economy of scale.
mm, yeah, that's true. Um, I've got one more question, and then I think that we've got enough, which is pretty choice. And the last question I've got is, do you have any what if moments?
What if moments?
Yeah, like what if I'd done this or what if I'd done that?
No, like that's
Good.
my personality mindset. I don't believe in regrets. What I've done is
Mm,
what I've done. And I actually think that what I've done is pretty amazing. I'm, I guess it's not arrogance, it's confidence in my own decision making, my own ability. And I know that what I've done is something worth remembering and like worth recognizing.
mm,
Could have done more. I don't know. I don't think about it at all.
No, that's what I was hoping you would say actually. And that's why I really wanted to get you on the podcast. So, um, thanks very much because I think it's really important because there's so many awesome like female athletes coming through at the moment and male athletes as well that fighters like yourself and like the ladies that we mentioned before and that really created the way for opportunity and inspiration for a lot of these younger ladies that are fighting now and that are coming through that are teenagers and stuff like that. And so, I think that it's important that we touch base with the likes of yourself and because you've got so much advice to give that these young people will lap up. And so I guess probably on behalf of a lot of us in the fight community, thanks very much for all your effort
Oh,
with being a fighter and promoting yourself and just being such an awesome person and showing what the sport really can do for people. So because we do remember who you are and that won't be forgotten easily, and that's part of the drive of why I'm trying to do the podcast. So thanks very much.
thank you. And I really, really appreciate it because that to me was like a really big part of it is actually promoting female sports. It wasn't always about myself. It's actually making sure that females get fair opportunities, get main events, and they get paid equally as males.
Hmm. Exactly. That's it. And I think that they're starting to get there slowly. It's pretty cool. It's going to
It's
take a little
slow.
bit of time. Yeah, it's slow, but hey, thank you very much. And yeah, we'll talk again soon, hopefully. That'll be cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, see ya.